Hey guys, Nick here, and today we're going to talk about Lobi ships in the Lobi Store. This is gonna be only ships that are currently in the store, not ships that are like the inquiry that are limited time only. And I'm gonna not mention, or I'm gonna say honorable mentions to. I'm gonna mention them now: the NX refit and the Walker, both because they now have legendary variants. So you get all the gear for pretty similar price because if you guys don't know like how you get Lobi from ripping Infinity lockboxes or promo packs. So getting Lobi, it's quite a valuable resource. You really don't want to be spending it willy nilly. So that's why I say probably not best to buy those ships with Lobi now because of how expensive it is to get Lobi. And showing on my screen is probably the most famous Lobi ship in the game, guys. This ship, I myself included, when it come out in the game, we all went nuts. We went, oh my god, that ship's a beast. That ship looks great. We all wanted it. So the Kelvin Timeline Intel Dreadnought Cruiser or the Vengeance. So guys, if you guys know the not the, I was about to say the hero ship, the villain ship from Star Trek Into Darkness. This is it, and it's in the Lobi Store. It's probably now, until about a month ago, it was fallen out of the favored ships, but now with Isomags dropping price and our Awani pets and a few things that allow temple ships to be quite potent, the Vengeance has climbed back up the ranks, guys, of energy weapon ships that are powerful. Like between myself and Casual Sab or Spencer, we believe it's probably in the top 5 now, maybe. Sure, this is for elite content using plasma weapons, guys. So I should be very specific. For elite content using energy weapons, for the high end push, you want to use plasma weapons with the Gorn Hunter trait, which I'm not going to go too much into, guys, about the build, but I just want to mention, the Vengeance is quite the powerful ship again. So it's really great to see. Anyway, guys, I want to get to my list, but I want to just mention I don't have builds on all of these ships. I have used the gear on all of these ships for all different builds. But if you want to see builds on these ships, you can message in my Discord, leave a comment, and discussion can go further. Anyway, guys, I'm going to jump to Google, and we're going to just go through our Lobi Store first. So this is the Lobi Store, Lobi Crystal Consortium. These are the bundles that have been in the thing, but in the Lobi Store. I don't want to mention them too much because they're not actually in the store anymore, but it shows we've had promotional ships in the Lobi Store before, so maybe if you've got a little bit of Lobi and you don't want any of these ships, you can keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe they'll drop another promo ship in the Lobi Store at some point. Alright, guys, so this is the Lobi Store. My honorable mentions were, I'm just going to do it at the start today, guys. The Sphere Builder Edolog Science Vessel. So the only reason why it's an honorable mention, it's a pretty good platform for science ships, but the trait, the console, and the visuals just are a little bit, to be desired. But the Boff Layout on the ship is quite good if you have the high-end console traits to make it relevant. So that's why I just want to give it an honorable mention. And we have, as always, I'm trying to not be blind, the NX refit, just because it's got a legendary variant now, guys. So, the only reason to buy this trait was for it's a beam overload ship, and it was a beam overload trait. But now it's not really needed as much because there's legendary, and the same with the Walker. It's a cool ship, good looking ship, but there is the legendary version now, so not one of my more recommended ships in this bundle. All right, to my short my pick of 7. All right, so first up, the Kelvin Vengeance Intel Dreadnought Cruiser. So the reason why I picked this, it's a beefy cruiser. It looks great. It's 5'3", so it's got that desired weapon layout for energy weapons. Now, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty on the details, but now it's for an energy weapon platform. If you have the Atlantis, the trait is great. The intel means it's got override subsystem safeties, so it's just great overall Boff Layout for what you need to do. And now with the isomag market, you can run many isomags with it. And because it's got a hanger bait, it can run an Awani pet for all the debuff. But the trait and the console themselves aren't really used anymore because there's just better things in the game. But it's the reason why it's number one on my list is because it's just a beautiful looking ship. It's got a great energy weapon, Boff Layout now, and it's just still I just think it's such a fan favorite, and it's just I just think it's one of the best ships in the game for like everybody to get. All right, next up, the Marquee R. So guys, would you say this is in Deep Space Nine, or would this be from Voyager officially? I I think officially it started in is it the first? I can't remember. The first mention would be in Deep Space Nine. But so guys, the Marquee R is a bit of a half and half. So it's got a very good plasma console, the Plasma Store module. So if you've seen it in a game, you know what I'm referring to. It's got one of the better EPG consoles on it, but it's an energy weapon platform. So most of the time, if you're buying this ship, you're only buying it for the console, but some people buy it because they love the ship. I like both ends. I got it on a character because I love the ship, but then I've gotten on many other characters because I wanted the console. So, it's a bit half and half on, where, like, why you want it. And as well to mention, most of these ships now are in a MUDs bundle, so you can also get these from a MUDs bundle, but I want to talk about our Lobi Store ships exclusively. Alright, so I think there's pretty much enough said about this ship here. Decent Boff Layout for energy weapons, great console for EPG. Trait really isn't anything you want to look at because it's like a half and half of EPG and energy weapons, so yeah, but a good cannon looking ship, a good energy weapon platform, and a good EPG trait. Alright, next up, this is a personal pick, guys. So, the trait and the console aren't really anything too special. The reason why I mentioned the Undine Kawavi Biocruiser is because it is command to command, so that means it's like a tanking meta choice, and it's Lieutenant Commander Universal Pilot, which means you've got access to pilot team and different pilot abilities, which means it moves like an escort. So you can be as tanky as you want to be, but it moves like an escort, and it's got commander, like it's got our inspirational abilities. So you think about your big tanks, your Styxes, your legendary Oddies, they don't move that well. The Kawavi moves really well. That's why I mentioned this ship. I just think it's a highly, highly underrated ship because, for tanks to be where they need to be is the most important part of a tank. If you're not there to grab the threat, your whole job as a tank is moot because you're not there to grab the threat. The Kawavi, that's never an issue because you're like one of the fastest persons on the map and you're also the tank. So I just think it's an amazing ship, and you just don't see, I wouldn't say don't see enough of it, but you just really don't see the ship in game. Probably because of the looks, it just doesn't look great comparatively to you think like a Vengeance, but I like the look of it, and I think the performance side of the ship just really shines through, and I think it's quite an underrated ship. Okay, guys, the Husnock warship. So the reason why the Husnock is on this list is because it is a beam overload ship. It's got a double up on the beam overload, so it's beam overload platform and it's beam overload trait. So the reason why I say it's a beam overload ship is because of its main seating, the Commander Tactical Temporal Operative. So a really good skill for beam overload as its single target is recursive shearing. And being a Commander Temporal, recursive shearing 3 is in the Commander slot. Beam overload at the highest level is a Lieutenant Commander, so you can still fit it in. Temporal having some of the better unconventional systems proc in the game, you can get that in. And then it's as well, its seating is not too high in the engineering, so you can fit in all that you need to, and then it's got your universal, so it's quite, it's quite a good beam overload ship. And as well as the trait, temporal bridge office abilities and directed energy modulation, boost cannon, rapid fire, and beam overload. So it's a good beam overload platform with temporal, and the trait is buffing beam overload with temporal bridge officer abilities. So you've got the proc on the ship that it comes from, and it's buffing the preferred weapon type or the weapon firing mode of that ship. So all up, good, it's good 1-2 trait and ship from this one. All right, next up, guys, we're moving on to these are going to be our trait only ships. So when I mean these are, you're generally not going to buy any of these ships per se for their looks. You're buying them because their traits are just that good. All right, so the Sona Intel battlecruiser. It is a commander Intel. So, and it's a 5-3. So you would make a rather good surgical strikes fire at will build on this ship if you wanted to actually use it. But the main reason I mention this ship is subspecial warheads. Subspecial warheads is the go-to trait for a torpedo build. So when slotted, damage caused by your torpedo high-yield torpedoes and transport torpedo warhead will cause an isolated tear to form near the damaged target. So this anomaly will chase to the nearest foe. But because the way torpedoes work, this is also procced under concentrate firepower high yields. So torpedo builds are running concentrate firepower and high yield, and sometimes theta for more high yields. You're just proccing this trait, proccing this trait, proccing this trait. So it's just incredibly good for torpedo builds. And the ship itself, I like the look of it. It's a decent looking ship in the sense of its materials. Like, it's a clean ship. I don't think the boomerang, it's a unique looking ship. But, it's not your Federation. It's not your Klingon. It's not your Romulan. It's not your mainstayers. So that's where it loses out. It's not like your mainstay, like, race. You look at it and go, okay, I don't mind the aesthetics, but it's not a trait on an energy weapon build. It's not a console that you're going to use on any ship, and it's not a ship you're probably going to have as your mainstay or your one you want to fly. The only reason you're probably buying this ship is to rip the trait off it, and that's about it. But just because of how powerful the trait is, I have to mention it because it's just that powerful of a trait for torpedoes. All right, same up is the Tholian Iktomi. So this ship's a little better for EPG because it's not too high of a locked seating on the engineering and tactical, which is always good for science. You want more science and more universal just because of how the science builds work in this game. So it's a little better than the Sona ship in that regard. So you could actually fly this ship for a decent science build, but the main reason you're picking this up is improved Photonic Officer. Photonic Officer lasts longer, buffs healing, and exotic damage. So it's 25% bonus shield healing, 25% bonus exotic damage for 30 seconds, and 25% bonus healing for 30 seconds. So this is on Photonic Officer, so it makes the Photonic Officer basic 100% uptime. As I get a YouTube subscriber, I'm going to just leave that and we're going to keep rolling with it. That scared the hell out of me, guys. I forgot to turn that off. Sorry, that's my bad. I really should turn that off for a video. But, guys, to the ship. This is a mainstayer on all EPG builds. So, it means your cooldown reduction's working really well. It means you're doing more damage. It means you're healing more. It's just, this is a, your mainstays. This is your universal designs for EPG builds. This is your Terran Goodbye. This is your History Remember. This is your firing mode extension for EPG builds. This is your mainstayer on your EPG builds because you're never going to take this trade off because it's making your cooldowns better, it's making you do more damage, and it's making you heal more. It's just one of those things you're never going to take off. And same again as most of these ships. The trait, if the trait's good, the console's probably nothing you want to look at. The only time you would use these console, because they're locked to Tholian ships, is if you're making a Tholian theme build, which my good friend Megla, if anybody knows Megla, he's more of in the higher end DPS community, but Megla loves his Tetrion. He has made a Tetrion theme build on his Tarantula, and he loves it. But I'd say You're picking the ship up for the trait 95% of this time, and the other 5% is probably if you really just love Tholian ships. Alright guys, last up, the Zindy Primate Adth Dreadnought Cruiser. So, same again, this ship is only on the list because it has a mainstayer trait, and this time it's for beam overload. So the Zindy Adth is the only extension trait for beam overload that's currently in the game that would give you 100% uptime on beam overload. So this is the same as Withering Barrage, but for beam overload, it's increased the duration of beam overload by 5 seconds. So that means you have a 15-second uptimer. Beam overload has a global cooldown of 15 seconds, so it means with enough cooldown reduction, you have beam overload up 100% of the time, which is the goal you're aiming for with energy weapons. The ship itself, it's 4/4. It's only a Lieutenant Commander command and a Lieutenant Intel, so its seating isn't amazing. It's Commander Engineering for a 4/4, so I couldn't really recommend a great build type for this. You're just going to have fun with this ship. You slap some fire at will on it. You can do cannons on it if you really wanted to. I probably wouldn't with the way it flies. I would do beams. But you could do I'd say some interesting fire at will stuff with this. Maybe a tank if you really wanted to, because you could do Suppression Barrage 1. You could do some fire at will. You could do Reverse Shield Polarity 3 and some higher engineering abilities. And yeah, you could make it work, but your main point to pick this ship up is the beam overload extension trait. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah, it's hard to say about this one, guys, because most of the time I've picked this up, I picked it up a couple of times, is to rip the beam overload trait off it and never fly it again. But comparatively to the other ships in the Lobi Store, it's giving you a mainstay, a trait on the build. It's unlike the others that aren't giving you a console, aren't giving you a trait, aren't giving you a ship that you're going to use. They're just there maybe if you want to fly the ship once or twice for you're interested in it. But this is going to give you a trait that you'll never take off if you mainstayer, like your main firing mode is beam overload. So yeah. Anyway guys, gonna go back to the game. That's gonna be it for this video. If you have any questions about this video, please leave them down below or join the Discord and message them there. There's many good people in there. You can ping me. Just remember, I'm in Australia. My job means I can either be very active or extremely inactive from one day to the next. You just never know. But I try my best. But guys, I'm going to say a big thank you again to everybody. The channel growth has been phenomenal. Like, I just can't really put it into words, like, how amazed I am. Like, today I was just dumbfounded, like, how I was on stream with Spencer, and I just had to say, Spencer, you have to take over for 5 seconds while I compose myself. Guys, I want to say thank you to everybody, especially our CCs who've been helping me out. McStew, Casual Sab, Trizander, and Augmented Dictator Games. Between just support, confidence building, has really helped me continue this YouTube, story. So guys, I'm gonna say if you like this video, press that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. And I'll see you all next time. Thank you and bye.